Now bring in Rolling Stone senior political reporter Aswan Suebsaeng. His latest piece titled "Trump's Military Crackdowns Are Only Going to Get Worse." And he writes about the administration's plan to spread its police force takeover. And so, Swin, let's talk about this. We've been kind of kicking it around the last couple of days here. D.C. is a little bit unique because the president, the federal government inherently has some authority there, although obviously it's a split verdict from residents, whether some think this is a good idea, many don't. But your reporting here suggests this is just the beginning.
Right. And as for just Washington, D.C., this is something that has been brewing for years. As you might recall, one of Donald Trump's greatest regrets from his first term was in the summer of 2020, including on the streets of Washington, D.C., including in front of the White House. He did not crack down much harder with regards to the use of American troops or the D.C. police. He actually wanted to do a takeover of D.C.'s local police force in 2020, but he was sort of pressured to back off of it by certain administration officials working for him at the time. Those people are all gone. He's now surrounded by hyper-MAGA loyalists who want to get him to the most extreme point that they can possibly get away with. So we reported at Rolling Stone that during the presidential transition and during the 2024 campaign, Trump and some of his top advisors had been plotting this for quite some time. No matter the level of unrest or no matter the level of crime, all of that can be taken as pretextual. He has wanted to do a power grab of some sort in Washington, D.C. for a long time. And when it comes to the Marines, the National Guard, as we've seen in Los Angeles, and as we're now seeing with the National Guard troops in D.C., this is something that he and some of his top advisors, many of his top advisors in the administration, as you all know, have wanted to replicate in Democratic stronghold after Democratic stronghold in the United States.
And Mike, let's remember just in 2020, President Trump even floated, he asked his then defense secretary, could these military personnel shoot protesters in the legs?
Yeah, and they're pretty good aims to do that. But look at inserting the National Guard onto the streets of the District of Columbia is kind of a layup. I mean, the D.C. government is under the federal government. They used to set cab rates in Washington, D.C. That's how flimsy the legislative structure of D.C. government was then and probably still is now. But the insertion of the National Guard onto city streets in places like the president has mentioned, New York, Baltimore, Chicago, places like that, that's a real leap to get that done, don't you think?
Yes, and at the end of the day, as you all have been talking about this morning, it's not about crime. It's not about political unrest. It's about him expanding his authoritarian power grabs and wanting to use the U.S. military, and in the cases of Los Angeles, literal Marines, not just the U.S. National Guard, but literal Marines as his political plaything and as a show of force in cities that he doesn't like, so he can show who is boss. That is something that you and I were taught in our schools growing up, that the President of the United States, the nominal leader of the free world, is simply not allowed to do.
Aswan, I'm curious about the political options on the table here for Democrats, given what is happening here. And is there a way for Democrats to engage in a positive way so they can say, look, we tried and this is what happened? We have polls, one poll at least, showing that people in D.C. feel that crime is bad, and that's politically something that can't be ignored. If Democrats reject this just whole hog, isn't there a fear that they're being set up? It's similar to inflation with Joe Biden, where nobody felt that it was getting better, but Democrats were saying it's getting better, it's getting better. What's the opportunity here for Democrats? What's the best play?
Well, when it comes to crime in American cities, including the nation's capital, even at times where the data shows that the crime stats are low and violent crime is down, it's just a fact that even in so-called good times, poorer communities, particularly poorer communities of color, feel the brunt of violent crime and street crime in America that other communities do not. And that absolutely should not be discounted, of course, including in the quote-unquote good times. Having said that, This isn't what that's about. If this administration and this government and this president were interested in crime reduction policy or poverty amelioration efforts that would really get at the heart of these issues, they would do that. That is not what Donald Trump is doing right now. He is explicitly saying that he wants to sic the U.S. military, armed federal assets, and now his federally controlled D.C. police on, for instance, the homeless and some of the most vulnerable people on the streets of Washington, D.C. This is not about crime.
Senior political reporter for Rolling Stone, Aswin Subseng, thank you very much for coming on the show this morning. His latest reporting is available online right now.